Hello! While working on my little turn-based game, I created a networking framework for Entitas ECS. It works pretty good, so I decided to share it. I'm gonna demonstrate it with a simple case and then explain main points. So let's create the server and connect clients. Awesome. So we can send messages to the server and it will retransmit it to all the clients. Awesome. We can request the character, it will create the entity on the server and server will sync it with all clients. We can modify the entity on the server. For example, we can remove the component and it was synchronized with clients. Let's add it back again. Awesome. We can destroy entity and it was removed from the clients, and we can create entity manually. So let's make it a character, let's synchronize it with clients. Awesome. And let's add some components. We can change it and it was synchronized. Awesome. We can even change the tick rate on server and the clients. And it worked. Awesome. So let's see how it works. The framework has three main points. First is code generator, second is commands, and third one is entity world synchronization. So code generator, this one. I generate almost all networking parts of the game, so it's pretty easy to create new features and don't care about synchronization at all. Let's look how it works when it applied to the commands. So we have command shems. This one is responsible for sending chat messages to the client. You see this attribute. And there's a bunch of those commands, shems of commands. For example, this shem is responsible for sending the chat message from the client to the server, and then code generator looks at four types with those attributes and generates, for example, that command. It's a struct, it has all that fields, and it has serializer and deserializer. Awesome. Then code generator generates interface for the handlers, and it generates the command executor, which triggers the handler with received command, already deserialized. Let's look how it actually works when implemented on the client. Pretty easy to read and pretty easy to code. Awesome. Let's look at the server one. Pretty easy too. Alright, let's see how entities world synchronized. So for example, we have a component. It has context name attribute and it has sync attribute, and it is partial. That is very important because code generator generates partial part which is responsible for serializing and deserializing the components. For example, some of them can contain fields, some cannot, and it works pretty good. So let's look at what is generated. First, let's look at component parts. This one was component with no fields, so when we serialize, we only add to the bit buffer ID of that component. When component has fields, we serialize it and deserialize. Pretty easy. And then there are generated systems which will handle component addition, component change, and component removal. For example, when we add connection or change value on connection, that system is triggered, and it looks if entity already was synchronized and if entity is not destroyed, and if server is working, then it will add the data into the bit buffer, and the same goes for all other components. And for example, when we remove the component, it looks for removed components, and if entity has no such component and it was synced and it was not destroyed yet, it will push all the data which is needed to the bit buffer. For example, it will push ID of that entity and ID of that component which should be removed. And because all messages are reliable, we will send only the changes which are happens on that frame. Let's look at sending. Generally, you shouldn't bother with it, because that system which enqueues sending of data handles everything for you, but you can look and see what's happening. For example, we are packing other commands, we're packing created entities, removed entities, removed components, changed components. By changed components, I mean there are changed components and added components, because they are handled the same. It uses native memory allocations and is pretty fast and easy. Awesome. So that's it. In the next video we will create the new command and see how easy it is. Bye.